This man has arrived at an army base to inspect some strange chemicals in the water, but he and his family are about to learn that every person on this base is the alien clone of a real human. A girl named Marty Malone is traveling with her family because her dad, Steve Malone, has been called in to inspect strange chemicals in the water near a military base. Also in the car are Marty's younger brother, Andy, and her stepmother, Carol. Andy gets along with Carol and refers to her as Mommy, but Marty does not. They stop at a gas station to fill the car up, and Marty goes to use the restroom. A man in a military suit is inside the bathroom, and he corners Marty, covering her mouth so she can't make a noise. He says to Marty, "They are out there, and they get you when you sleep." But Marty has no idea who he's referring to. She runs out of the bathroom and tells her dad there is a psycho inside. Her dad and a few of the locals investigate and find that the bathroom is empty. They continue their journey and arrive at the military base. They get settled into a small housing area near the military base, where they will be staying for the next few months, while Steve does his job. Marty goes out for a walk, and while she is out, she sees a gum with some teeth in it lying on the ground. She is interrupted by some very blank-faced soldiers who tell her that she cannot be walking in the restricted area. Just then, a very rebellious-looking girl arrives in her car and tells Marty to get in. The girl is named Jen, and she informs Marty that she is the daughter of the general who runs the base. The two girls go to Jen's home, where her alcoholic mother is lying on the sofa, passed out. At night, Andy wakes up from a nightmare and goes into his parents' room. Carol comforts him, and just then, they see through the window that a bunch of army personnel are dragging someone from next door into their vehicle. The next morning, Steve meets with the general, and he doesn't seem too excited about Steve's work. He says the best thing to do is to leave the strange chemicals alone. Steve is taking samples of the water around the base when a man named Major Collins arrives. Major Collins asks Steve if exposure to these chemicals can cause psychological effects, such as delusions and psychosis. Steve replies that he is a chemist, and this is not in his area of expertise. He can tell that the chemicals are clearly toxic, but he isn't a psychiatrist. Collins says that people are coming into the infirmary with severe delusions. They are scared of sleeping, scared of meeting their own family members, and delusional and suspicious about the identities of those around them. He asks that Steve keep him updated on the tests he conducts. The blank-faced soldiers arrive at Steve's house to drop off some equipment for him, and Marty receives them. While she isn't looking, some of the soldiers go upstairs and drop the boxes into Steve and Carol's bedroom. Marty is suspicious of this. Andy is at daycare, and all the children there draw the same drawing of some strange pink worms. Andy is the only one with a different drawing. His teacher looks at him disappointingly. Andy gets out of the daycare and starts roaming through the base. He is caught by a soldier named Tim, and he informs Tim that he is running from the bad people. Tim brings Andy home, and he is greeted at the door by Marty. She is very clearly smitten by him. Andy tells Marty that the people at the daycare kept trying to get him to sleep against his will. Tim asks Marty out, and she says yes. At night, Carol is fussing over Andy not fitting in at daycare when Jen arrives to pick up Marty. They plan to go out for the night. Steve is apprehensive, but he allows Marty to go out as long as she comes back at 12. Jen and Marty arrive at a bar and meet Tim and his soldier friend, Pete. All the other people at the bar are oddly blank-faced and emotionless. Pete and Jen go to play some pool, leaving Marty and Tim to talk. As they flirt, a soldier at the bar passes out, and just then, a couple of other soldiers arrive and pick him up. One of the soldiers is the one that gave Marty the warning in the gas station bathroom. She tells Tim about it, and Tim asks the soldier what he did to Marty in the bathroom. The soldier looks at Tim with a blank face and says he has no idea what Tim is talking about. Marty tells Tim to let it go. Tim walks Marty home, and on the way home they play a little game, which turns into them making out. Close to them, at the river, a bunch of soldiers are plucking some kind of eggs from the water and loading them into trucks. Andy enters Carol's room and finds her body decaying rapidly. Then, a blank-faced clone of Carol comes out of the closet. Andy screams and runs to Steve. He tells Steve what he saw, but Steve thinks he just had a nightmare. Clone Carol says she'll put Andy to bed, but he runs outside. At the same time, Marty is arriving home, and as Steve goes out to get Andy, he sees Marty and the soldiers with booze in their hand. He tells Tim that Marty is underage and warns him to never see Marty again. Andy tells Marty that the Carol in the house is not his mommy, but Marty just thinks he's saying that because Carol is his stepmother. Steve enters the house and scolds Marty for drinking while she's underage and dating someone so much older. The two have a heated argument. The next morning, Clone Carol gives away a bag of trash to the soldiers collecting garbage. The bag contains the remains of the real Carol's body. At breakfast, Marty and Steve have another heated argument, and Marty leaves the house. Steve asks Andy if he wants to go to daycare or stay with Mommy, and Andy replies that his mommy is dead. Steve doesn't know what to do. At work, an accident occurs with the toxic chemicals from around the base, and one of the soldiers gets a severe burn on his leg. Steve urges the other soldiers to call an ambulance, but they seem oddly calm and say that they will deal with it. The burned leg is very strange looking. Marty arrives at Jen's, and Jen says that something is wrong with her mother. She says that her mother has not drunk a drop of alcohol today, which is very strange. Her mother says that she is going out to play bridge with her friends, and Jen tells Marty that her mother doesn't even know how to play bridge. Steve takes a sample from the suit of the man who got burned by the toxic chemicals. He runs some tests and finds out that the liquid on the suit is not blood, nor is it human tissue. He doesn't know what it is. Marty arrives home, and Andy tells her that they will die if they sleep. Just then, Clone Carol arrives and tells Marty her bath is ready. After Marty leaves, Clone Carol sternly tells Andy to go to sleep. Above the roof of Marty's bathroom, one of the eggs from earlier is lying, and unbeknownst to Marty, tentacles emerge from the egg and start approaching her. Meanwhile, Clone Carol gives Steve a massage to put him to sleep. The tentacles reach up Marty's chest and go into her nose and mouth. As they do, a body starts forming inside the egg. The same thing is happening with Steve in the bedroom as Clone Carol watches. Suddenly, Marty wakes up and takes off the tentacles. A nearly formed clone body of Marty falls from above on the real Marty. She screams and runs into Steve's room, freeing him from the tentacles as well. A half-formed clone body of Steve comes out from under the bed. Steve is about to run out of the house when Clone Carol stops him. She says there is nowhere to go and nowhere to hide because there is no one like them left outside. She tries to convince Steve to just give in, but then Marty comes downstairs with Andy and all three of them run outside. Clone Carol points a finger at them and lets out a loud scream. People come out of all the houses and start chasing them. They are all clones, and all the real people are dead. The trio receive assistance from some soldiers who are still human. Tim hears the pandemonium going on outside and wakes up. As he is about to head out, he is confronted by Pete and his other friends, who are all blank-faced now. They try to force Tim to go to sleep using a sedative, but he fights them off. Steve hides Andy and Marty in a factory and tells them he is going to go out and find help. He sneaks into the office of Major Collins, who is still human, because he's been taking amphetamines to stay awake. He asks Collins for the keys to his car, and Collins says it's pointless. The aliens have taken over the entire base. Clone soldiers arrive in the office, and Collins tosses the keys to Steve, who hides. The clone soldiers explain to Collins that they have traveled light years across the universe, and they survive because they have unity. They put the race above the whims and emotions of individuals. That's why they have no emotions. They tell Collins to give up, but Collins says they'll never get his soul and shoots himself. Steve comes back to the factory and puts Andy and Marty in Collins' car. They are driving out of the base, and Marty notices that Steve is very blank-faced. Steve says he is doing it to fool the aliens, but Marty senses something is wrong. She pulls the handbrake and fights Steve to get out of the car. Just then, Tim arrives, and Marty tells him to shoot Steve, because this Steve is not her real father. Tim is hesitant, so Marty grabs the gun and does it herself. Sure enough, the body decays in an alien manner. Tim, Marty, and Andy get in the car to leave. An alien points at them and screams, and hundreds of others come out to chase them. Tim stops the car near a helicopter. He tells Andy and Marty to wait for him in the car because it's too dangerous to approach the helicopter. Sure enough, as Tim approaches the helicopter, Pete and the other aliens arrive. Tim puts on a blank face and acts like one of the aliens to fool them. Pete tests Tim by telling him that he made love to his girlfriend, hoping to get an emotional reaction out of him. Tim maintains the blank face, and Pete and the others leave him alone. Tim takes off in the helicopter, but outside, Marty and Andy get abducted and are taken into an ambulance. Tim sees all this and follows the ambulance to the infirmary. Meanwhile, the soldiers are loading more and more eggs into the trucks. Still pretending to be one of the aliens, Tim enters the infirmary and finds Marty with tentacles wrapped all over her. A human soldier fights the aliens, and while they are distracted, Tim tries to wake Marty up. Marty's clone wakes up and tries to stop Tim from interrupting the process by flashing her alien melons at him. Fortunately, Tim doesn't care for fake melons. He wants the real thing, so he wakes the real Marty up. This kills the clone Marty. Outside, the trucks full of alien eggs are being assigned locations all over America as a plan to make clones of everyone in the world. Tim says they are going to get on his helicopter and escape, but Marty says she is not leaving without Andy. They run into Jen and can't decide if she's a clone or just acting like them. Jen says to Marty that she saw Andy and he was looking for her. Marty breaks character and asks where Andy is, but Jen just points at her and screams, "Clone confirmed." They make a run for it toward the helicopter, and just then, Andy comes running out of the infirmary. They manage to get Andy on board in time, but as they gain altitude, Andy starts attacking them. Marty realizes this isn't really Andy, and she throws him out. As the two fly away, one of the aliens asks the other if they should follow, but the other alien says they don't need to, because no one will believe their story. However, it turns out, Tim and Marty don't go to tell anyone. They use the missiles in the helicopter to destroy the trucks going out with alien eggs in them. Then, they return to the base and wreak havoc on it with the missiles as well. Only after thoroughly destroying the base, they leave and arrive in the city. However, as they land, Marty remembers Clone Carol's words when she said that there is nowhere to run or hide, because there is no one like them left outside. It could be possible that the aliens have already infiltrated society beyond that isolated military base. The end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.